Our next presenter is Dean Joanne Rol, PhD, who is the business at Medgar Evers College at the City University of New York and the CEO of J.D. Rol Associates. Joanne's presentation is entitled Tech-Enabled Equity, Data-Driven EdTech Solutions for Underserved communities. And this is an education presentation from an education professional. So Joanne, please take the stage, and looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And I want to thank Dee and the entire ICC team for bringing together this wonderful panel of experts. I've enjoyed every single presentation. Everyone has been different. Everyone has been eye-opening and of benefit. So I'm going to take a few minutes of your time. You know, educators, academicians can't talk, and I have time myself. I should take less than 10 minutes, Mark. So the title of my presentation is Tech-Enabled Data-Driven Solutions, Elevating Education in Underserved Areas. The agenda will cover, in a very short period of time, overview of global wealth gap, poverty and sustainable development goals, global technology disparity and post-pandemic impacts, education and technology possibilities, collaborations and partnerships, entrepreneurial ecosystems, customized approaches to community-led co-creative solutions, and conclusions and a call to action. So first, I want to talk about the why. Why do this work? The poor and global wealth gap, as well as the income gap for Black and Brown people or for underserved areas, has been with us for time immemorial. So that is not new. But how we approach it, and in terms of the massive amount of abundance that we see that technology is driving in some sectors, how do we give access to those who we don't want to leave behind? So let's start with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The number one goal is the eradication of poverty. And at one point, they thought they were on track to see it slow down. But I can tell you, after COVID and the disparity in technology advancements, the poor the poor is increasing, and the few who are able to garner solutions and garner some of the benefits from the wealth that they're creating, it remains few. And so some of this technology that is driving it, and all the time you hear about AI, but it's not just AI. AI is the soup of the day, but emerging technologies are behind them and other technologies were before them. And the real issue is not the specific technology, but as technology and these shifts continue to change, how do we adapt the workforce, those that we are creating in our institutions and those who have been displaced, the displaced workforce? How do we keep them upskilling so that they could take an advantage? You know, when we had the pandemic, what we saw was, especially in the retail sector where it was customer facing or some other customer facing industries, we saw massive amount of folks who were middle class leave the middle class and go out of the middle class because they were unemployed and underemployed for longer periods of time. They were not able to upscale and to participate as they were before. So it's not just what has happened in the past, but our most recent experience has caused more of a crisis when we start talking about what is happening to the class. So let's point at ourselves first. Education and the educational system needs an overhaul. We have not been able to keep up with industry and the technology transformations as they continue to envelop. So the role of education in empowerment, we know education changes lives. Nelson Mandela said it was the greatest weapon to change the world. But how can we make it more relevant? How can we make it faster pace? These are some of the challenges that we face when we look at underserved areas and how they can access a quality education to help them keep pace with the world as it changes. Technology can and is an equalizer. It's how we use it. How do we Do we equip the underserved areas with the technology and education and the technology access so that they too can participate as new entries into the workforce, or as entrepreneurs and small businesses that can develop in their neighborhoods and to help change the wealth gap and income gap in their immediate areas? So the emphasis is on capacity building among educators. And I say that because, I'm a first generation college student. My great-grandmother could not read or write. My parents understood the value of education. Now, all five of my sisters, all four of my sisters and my brother have at least undergraduate education, and most of them have graduate educations. And I know from a personal area, personal level, that education can do it, but it's what we equip. What is the education going to be for these new workforce entrants and students? So one area, one discipline. I'm an economist and I love my discipline, but I understand that economics alone is not going to be the shift maker. We need all the disciplines coming together to help work and support and make the transformation happen. And I'm preparing a book. I know I don't often mention that I'm also the CEO of JD Rol and Associates. It's a consulting firm, and we have been consulting for over 30 years now. But I have seen globally how changes in mind shifts. You heard a presentation talking about shifts in mindsets. Several of the presentations had it weaved in throughout. In fact, all of the presentations had shifts in mind shifts weaved into their presentation. A university in Nigeria, it knew that the technology was changing and that all of the participants couldn't participate. So they went into private public partnerships and became a hub. And they didn't just keep that technology to the university itself. They opened it up to the small businesses. They opened it up to the community so that they could help spur growth outside of the academic environment. I'll give you our own personal with the City University of New York. The CEOs of the larger corporations really do need a career-ready workforce. So they're working with CUNY, one of the largest universities in the world, urban universities in the world. They're working with CUNY to redevelop the CIS curriculum for the first 2 years, including not internships, but apprenticeships wrapped into that curriculum. So you have the institutions, and there's several in the pilot working. CUNY is made up of many other colleges. And so we have several of the colleges working hand in hand with those corporations, understanding what is needed, preparing them, but also giving them experiential learning. So it's not just the theory and the concept that they have, but those students would have had hands-on knowledge working in those communities. So let's talk a little bit about the role of entrepreneurship in the community for transformation. The small businesses are generally around most of the world are the engines of those economies. They hire many in the workforce. And can they afford to keep up with all of the technology changes? And so they need some public-private sector support so that innovation and economic growth could go down to the level of the small business entrepreneur, and they can hire some of those young students and some of those displaced workers as they come out. So let's talk a little bit, and this is what I really love talking about. We have spent lots of funds in the U.S. since the Civil Rights Movement on changing the dynamics of the income and wealth and the income gap and the wealth gap, and it has gotten worse. And I say that because the philosophy was you'd pilot you scale and you build one solution that will fit all. Well, one size doesn't fit all. Culture and subculture has an impact on the community. So it's important to, when we're looking at these solutions, to use the data, but to use it by the specific communities and problems we're trying to address. So technology can be an enabler when it's aligned with the specific community and sub-community needs, and not for us just to assume that one size will fit all. So let's talk about a little bit about co-creation. And I will talk about the US. A lot of these policies have been coming down, and they come top to bottom, and they give the money, they give the programs to these communities, and they said, now you use it. And the communities could look at it because they were not co-created in the community. And there's a lot that happens in the community that it is not necessarily written down in a book or known by people in policy, but the people in those communities, the people in those neighborhoods. You heard the last presentation talk about, understanding at the very school level what goes on in the community. The people in the community can help create better solutions if we use them, if we trust them. And so I like the quote by Mahatma Gandhi. Oftentimes we're looking for the government to help come with the change, or we're looking for the large corporations to just give us money. Mahatma Gandhi said, you be the change you wish to see in the world. And so I want to end on a note like that in terms of the call to action. The world is complex, but it can be simplified by simple solutions worked community by community, neighborhood by neighborhood, city by city, country by country, on up to the globe. So let us stop looking at everyone else, starting now. You've heard 5 great presentations. That's what we do. But what can you do with the time, the resources, and where you are right now? How can you help make this world a better place, given that we know that technology is going to be with us? It's not going away. The poor has been with us. How can we help each other for that global goal of eradicating poverty around the world? Thank you.